With the release of Thor Ragnarok, it's a perfect time to do an updated ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. All 17 of them. Here we go. What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again, giving you guys another ranking. That's right, guys, like I said in the intro, Thor Ragnarok just came out this weekend, the new Thor movie, and everyone is giving their updated rankings of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I figured I would join in on the fun and give you guys my updated ranking of all 17 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, including Thor Ragnarok. So, let's get right into number 17. But before we get into my ranking, guys, let me know your guys' rankings down below in the comments section. What's your 17 through 1, and tell me why you put those movies in those spots. Let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, guys. I want to hear your guys' lists. Coming in at number 17 is Iron Man 2. This is easily, in my opinion, the weakest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's an extremely disappointing sequel, and to be honest, it didn't really focus on being an Iron Man movie. It was just basically a setup to the Avengers. There are some redeeming qualities in Iron Man 2. Robert Downey Jr. is great as Tony Stark in here once again. Gwyneth Paltrow's great. I love the introductions to Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow and Don Cheadle as War Machine. They're great new additions to the MCU. The action sequences are extremely entertaining. The humor's fantastic. But really what made Iron Man 2 a disappointing sequel is the villains involved in it. You had Whiplash and Sam Rockwell's characters. They really were underdeveloped, and they really didn't add any menacing tones to the film, and they honestly were just weak villains. So all in all, Iron Man 2 is easily the weakest Marvel film. It's not a horrible movie at all. It's watchable. Coming in at number 16 is another disappointing sequel, and that is Thor: The Dark World. Now, Thor: The Dark World, it's a really boring sequel. You had a new director, Alan Taylor, not Kenneth Branagh, and honestly, he didn't add much to this sequel, but I did like Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, but really what made this movie so boring was the villain, Malekith. Easily the most forgettable MCU villain to date. You don't remember his motivations at all, and plus Thor's mother dies. I really didn't find much impact to that. It just happens. The overall story, again with the Earth stuff. We had Jane Foster, Kat Dennings, Stellan Skarsgård. The Earth stuff is boring. We want to get to Asgard. That's where it lies. But it is watchable. All of these Marvel movies are watchable. They're not awful at all, but it's on the lower tier on my list. Number 15 for me is The Incredible Hulk. I did like Edward Norton as Bruce Banner / the Hulk. I actually thought Edward Norton was really good as this character, but he didn't have much to do in this film. I kind of felt the overall story was just really boring and uninteresting, but the other performances are great in here. Tim Roth as Abomination, he was pretty good. William Hurt, fantastic as Thunderbolt Ross. Also, Ty Burrell was great, and the humor's good, but the story involving the Abomination and plus the military just really didn't add up to me. In the end, while fun, it's fun to see the Hulk and Abomination finally fight each other, it just leads up to nothing. It kind of feels like the MCU doesn't appreciate this movie enough, like it's not involved in the universe, which is kind of shocking, but I actually don't think this movie's bad at all. It's actually pretty good. Compared to the other great MCU movies, this one is on the lower 3 tier. Coming in at number 14 is a very controversial film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You either love it or you hate it, and I wasn't a fan of this. Iron Man 3. I'll give credit that it was a completely different direction for the MCU, like it didn't feel like an MCU movie. Shane Black directed this. Well, I love Shane Black and what he's done with The Nice Guys and other films that he's done. Just, I felt like he was the wrong person to direct Iron Man 3. Just didn't feel like an Iron Man movie to me. All the twists involving the Mandarin and stuff like that, I was really looking forward to the Mandarin. Wasn't a fan of the twist, to be completely honest. And also, Guy Pearce is a villain in this movie. He was completely wasted. All of that villainous stuff about Iron Man 3 really put it low on my list. But I do like the relationship between him and the young kid. That was one of my favorite parts of the film by far. Coming in at number 13 is the first Thor movie, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Now, I actually really enjoyed this movie. Me not knowing much about Thor from the comics, so he's the god of thunder, is like, how am I going to relate to this guy? And I actually really like this movie. Kenneth Branagh, I think he did a good job directing it. And Chris Hemsworth, man, he's great as Thor. Tom Hiddleston's great. Anthony Hopkins, that trifecta of three in Asgard makes the movie so great. Until we get to Earth. And that's where the movie really drags and slops down. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, I just don't buy their romantic chemistry at all. Kat Dennings, again, is extremely annoying in this film. And all the Earth stuff really makes me from loving Thor. And if it just stayed completely on Asgard, it would have been much better. My number 12 is a newer movie. That is Doctor Strange. Newest character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Phase 3. I was really looking forward to seeing this movie because I wanted to see a new character introduced. And we had Benedict Cumberbatch playing Stephen Strange. Benedict Cumberbatch was the perfect choice to play Doctor Strange. I thought he nailed the arrogance of this character extremely well, plus his commitment to wanting to be better in the art of sorcery. Just to see him in these scenes with the Ancient One, also Mordo and Caecilius, Benedict Cumberbatch is fantastic as Doctor Strange. And plus the side performances, some of them were really good. I liked Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, plus all the controversy about her race. I didn't care about all that. She was great. Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mordo. I hope he comes back potentially. Benedict Wong, too, in a smaller role. Fantastic. Rachel McAdams was great. Oh, and also, the visual effects in this movie, top notch. Best visual effects I've ever seen in the MCU. Now, my problems with Doctor Strange lie with the villain Caecilius, Mads Mikkelsen. Another wasted villain in the MCU. Just, he didn't get much development at all. You find out some things, but they aren't well explained by the end. While he was really great as the character, just I wish they developed him more. There's a lot of exposition in this movie involving the world of the mystic arts, and it does get kind of boring, but you do need to know these things. Just exposition really drags down scenes. Alright, coming in at number 11 is another sequel in the MCU. The first movie was great, this one was just decent. And that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this was my second or third most anticipated movie this year. Really looking forward to it. James Gunn back to direct. All the original cast back, and Kurt Russell too involved in it. This sequel was just okay, and a huge step down from the first movie. Now, if you actually go back on my channel when I reviewed this movie, I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I completely knew after rewatching it that's a little too high of a grade. Now I'd say it's probably a 3.5 out of 5. The chemistry in this film is absolutely fantastic. The Guardians, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, Baby Groot really steals the show. Plus Yondu, Michael Rooker, really shines in this sequel. And Kurt Russell as Ego the Living Planet, the huge twist in there, actually made me really like the end a lot. The ending's great. Guardians 2, just these golden people in the film were completely unnecessary. Huge waste of opportunity. And just the humor really is 50-50 in this film. That's what makes it a disappointing sequel to me, but it's still fun. And now we're in the top 10, guys. My number 10 is, this was one of the most anticipated movies that we were hoping they would finally get Spider-Man right once again. And it is SpiderMan Homecoming. SpiderMan Homecoming is the first solo film of Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We all know the things that happened with Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3. The Amazing Spider-Man movies were awful. Now we're here in the MCU. And Spider-Man Homecoming, I did give it a little bit too high of a grade after rewatching it. It's a decent, great, good return for Spider-Man. Tom Holland, he's my favorite Spider-Man because this kid rocks. He plays both characters extremely well. I love the high school elements in this film. Were fantastic. All his friends were great. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is easily one of the best MCU villains, and the huge twist in there involving him being Liz's father. I did not see that coming from a mile ahead. That made the movie so much better, and his character better. My biggest complaints are that the intensity in the action sequences were nowhere close to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Some of the humor doesn't fall flat, and also some comic choices really didn't work for me. Flash Thompson. In the end, SpiderMan Homecoming, I really enjoyed this movie, even though it's not perfect. It's still in my top 10. Coming in at number 9 is Captain America: The First Avenger. This is the first film in the Captain America trilogy, directed by Joe Johnston, who directed Jumanji, Jurassic Park 3. People were really scared about this film because you had Chris Evans playing Captain America, and we know what he did in the past as the Human Torch in Fantastic Four. Everyone did not like the casting choice at all, but Chris Evans, man, he proved everyone wrong. He's great as Captain America, and this film is badass. Man, I love this story of Steve Rogers becoming Captain America, fighting in World War II, and just wearing the red, white, and blue with pride. This is the best side character performances in the MCU. I mean, you got Haley Atwell, you got Sebastian Stan, Tommy Lee Jones, Toby Jones, and also Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. I think he's extremely underrated as a villain. I want him to come back so bad and prove himself once again. First Avenger had a lot of heart to it, especially the ending with him and Peggy Carter. Such an emotional goodbye when Cap freezes down below with the plane. So emotionally impactful. I love First Avenger. It's a great start to the Captain America trilogy. My number 8 is a sequel, and that is Avengers Age of Ultron, the sequel to the first Avengers movie. Now, I was mad pumped for this film. I had my expectations this freaking high. After that teaser trailer come out, hearing Ultron's voice, I'm like, this is going to be a great sequel. And walking out of Age of Ultron, I was like, I thought it was a good sequel, but it wasn't what I was hoping it would be. But still, I gotta give a lot of positives to this film. The humor and the chemistry of the Avengers in this film is possibly better than the first film. These guys just work extremely well together. The action is great, very entertaining. I love the introductions to Scarlet Witch and Vision. I didn't like Quicksilver's introduction because you know what happens at the end. He dies. You don't get much of a good backstory with Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch is badass, and Vision's badass. When he picks up Thor's hammer, I'm like, I love Vision. But really, my biggest complaints with Age of Ultron is Ultron. The way they betrayed him. They were building him up to be such a sinister villain like Thanos. And then he's just the villainous version of Tony Stark, saying joke after joke after joke. I'm like, oh, come on. I wanted it to be more menacing than this. In the end, Age of Ultron is a good sequel, very worthy in the MCU, and very entertaining. My number 7, this was the most risky Marvel movie, and you know what it is, AntMan. AntMan, I was not really that much excited going into this movie until I found out they were going to get Edgar Wright to direct it. But then all the news came out that Edgar Wright was not going to direct it because of creative differences. And they bring on a guy who I did not know, Peyton Reed, directed Cheerleaders in the past. He did a really good job directing Ant-Man. This movie was a total blast and badass, man. The heist elements I loved extremely well. Paul Rudd was fantastic in this film. I mean, as a comedian, you would never think this guy would play a badass superhero. And he does. He's absolutely hilarious. He kicks ass in the Ant-Man suit. Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, great supporting cast in this film. Michael Pena was a great comedic relief. The action sequences when he shrinks down with the Ant-Man suit and he just goes under a well, he goes underground, he's going everywhere. Plus the Thomas the Tank Engine scene is one of the best scenes in the MCU. Really funny. I know a lot of people had a lot of problems with Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket. I wish he had a little bit more development to him, but you could completely see he was trying his best with the villain role. Overall, I had a blast with Ant-Man, and plus the Falcon scene is worth mentioning too. That's awesome stuff. My number 6 is the brand new released movie that is Thor Ragnarok. Just because the top 5 are classics, I've only seen this movie once, that's why it's there. You guys saw my review for Thor Ragnarok. I absolutely love this movie. And with the third entry in a trilogy being the best, says so much. I mean, Thor Ragnarok had all the potential to fail. You bring on Taika Waititi directed, you know it's going to be the best in the trilogy. And it absolutely was. Taika Waititi, you felt like he had his own creative freedom making this movie. And this movie did so much more than being a comedy. It explored Thor's origin story extremely well, making him the god of thunder and not the master of the Mjolnir, the hammer. And the action sequences were great. Everyone was great. Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, one of the biggest surprise characters. Cate Blanchett as Hela is now my favorite MCU villain. She's badass, man. Karl Urban. Everybody in this movie does a fantastic job. And plus, I gotta shout out Korg. That character was awesome. Played by Taika Waititi. Really, my problems with Thor Ragnarok just involve around the action sequences, the CGI. There were some exposition scenes that could have been done better, but overall, Thor Ragnarok really did surprise me, and you could tell how much I love this movie. That's why it's at my number 6 spot. Top 5, guys. Let's get going with this. My number 5 was the very start to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is Iron Man. Now, I loved Iron Man when it first came out. I mean, this character also was very unknown. And you get Robert Downey Jr. to play him. Best casting choice you could possibly get for a superhero character. Robert Downey Jr. just nails this character extremely well. And Iron Man really had a lot at stake. It had the potential to fail. And it didn't. This story's incredible. Fantastic origin story. Fantastic side characters. Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard. Jeff Bridges was my really only complaint with the film. He was badass at the beginning, but the rest of the movie, they didn't do much with him. And that's what made me disappointed with Jeff Bridges' villain portrayal. But overall, everything else about Iron Man is flawless. You guys know that Iron Man is phenomenal. Coming in at number 4 was extremely difficult because these 4 movies are incredible. My number 4 is, very sad to say, I had to put Guardians of the Galaxy 1 at my number 4 spot. Just because I like one movie just a tad bit more, but this one is just a pinch close. You guys know how much I love this movie. It's absolutely funny, hilarious, badass, some of the best dialogue I've ever heard in the MCU. These characters are just all great. The soundtrack, everything about Guardians is just a flawless film. You have to watch it. It's just the easiest watchable movie you could watch right here. Guardians is so fantastic. Have to put it in my top 5. Now, the top 3. Top 3. So, my number 3, this was another very risky Marvel movie to do. You have to get all these characters in it, and plus, bring on a very unknown director, but mostly known in TV. And plus, execute this movie extremely well with a bunch of characters and have a great story. You may think it's one movie, but it's actually The Avengers. Directed by Joss Whedon. This guy was extremely known for the Firefly series, and coming on to direct The Avengers, he had a huge risk, and he crushed it. Joss Whedon did everything perfectly with The Avengers. The action sequences are phenomenal. The characters are phenomenal. The script, the dialogue, it's just a timeless superhero classic. The ending fight is perfect. Avengers, top 3. Hell yes. Now the top 2 movies. You guys know what these movies are, and you know how great they are, but the question is, where do they rank? My number 2 is a fantastic sequel. It's part of one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and this movie went in a completely different direction than the first film. And plus, you brought on 2 new directors to direct it. My number 2 is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Bringing on the Russo brothers to direct this sequel. They absolutely killed it. I freaking loved Winter Soldier. I saw it in the movie theater and I went out, this is my favorite Marvel movie right now. Everything about this film blew me away. The action sequences are incredible. The DC police chase, the final helicarrier battle, that elevator scene. Oh my god, some of the best action sequences in the MCU. Winter Soldier is just badass, man. The performances in here are great. I love the introduction to Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. Plus the Winter Soldier, Robert Redford, one of the best villains in the MCU. Everything about Winter Soldier completely surprised me, and it's a near perfect film. Here we are at number 1. My number 1, you know what it is, the biggest of all superhero films, bringing in so many different characters, superheroes plus side characters from other Marvel movies, plus introductions to 2 new superheroes, and just having the most tough job to do, execute this comic book storyline to perfection. And I feel like these guys did. The Russo brothers did it with Captain America Civil War. Civil War is one of my favorite comic book storylines of all time. And this movie crushed every single expectation I had for it. And I know it sounds like I'm fanboying out on this film, but it's true. This film is absolutely phenomenal. This is how you should make a superhero movie right here. With emotion, with fantastic action sequences, and fantastic humor. The dialogue in this movie, the script is fantastic. The characters are great once again. I don't even have to say who's in it. You know who's in it. The airport scene is classic. The final 10 minutes is absolutely heartbreaking. Black Panther and Spider-Man, the 2 new characters being introduced in the film. Black Panther, I'm already excited for his film. SpiderMan Homecoming 2 was a good film, and Tom Holland was great as Spider-Man. What lays down on Civil War is the rift that goes on with Cap and Iron Man. Wow, it's some heartbreaking stuff. By the final 10 minutes, I was like, I don't want anybody to win. I want you guys to stop fighting and be heroes again. And it's just sad what happens at the end. We cannot forget about the villain, Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl. Everyone was bashing hard on this guy, like saying he's the weakest part of this film, but no. This guy is one of the most underrated villains in the MCU. This guy has no powers, and he took out half of the Avengers with no superpowers whatsoever. That is impressive stuff right there. And Zemo, I gotta give props to this villain. I really hope he comes back. Oh my god, Civil War is a phenomenal film. It's freaking flawless, I could say that, but it's not close to perfect. Some little quirks and oddities happen in it and make it from perfect, but it's still my favorite MCU movie, and it's going to be hard for any other film to top it. And there you have it, guys. That is my updated ranking of all 17 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, including Thor Ragnarok. That was a long list to do. Once again, let me know your guys' list down below in the comments. Ranked from worst to best. Tell me why you have those movies there. Let's talk about these movies, guys. I'm interested to hear your guys' lists. Thank you guys, as always, for watching this ranking. And if you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe today for more content. All my social media links are in the description down below, as well as links to my Patreon and Snapchat. And click that notification bell on your way out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!